Well, this morning in one of our Finding Traction groups, I was working with a group of guys that are all around the age of my kids. Gen Zs, which I think is under 35-ish. And I always love that because they're the same age as my kids. And I do think I have some idea where they're at because I talk to my kids all the time. Well, as much as any unk or OG guy could. Catch that lingo? It doesn't make me Riz. Okay, just please stop it, Vern. But I have a great time working with younger guys. I mean, I work with guys, who are older and middle age and 60s and 70s. But one of the things that I love talking with younger guys is a concept called the personal craziness index, where you look at how crazy or out of control your life feels in specific areas, whether it's, your sleep schedule or what you eat or the state of your vehicle or the state of your home or room or your work life or your work-life balance or your finances, any area where you feel like things are out of control. And one thing I noticed today from our discussion, running throughout the guys, talking about this concept, was this pattern of procrastination. In the face of out of control areas, most of us put off what needs to be done. So today I want to talk about the trait of procrastination or the habit of procrastination and how to slay it in our lives. Welcome aboard.
Ready?
When it comes to porn, are you stuck, spinning out, or slipping backwards in your life? If so, then welcome to the Finding Traction podcast, a show dedicated to those who are looking to gain recovery momentum away from porn and toward the life and relationships they have always hoped for. Now, here's your host, Vern Tomke.
Well, let me just say that we are now in the fall, and it's usually a great time for guys to look at stepping forward in terms of out of control areas. Since I'm going to talk about procrastination today, maybe this would be a good time to say, you know what? I am going to stop procrastinating, looking at the steps that I need to take to get my porn life under control, to evict it from my life. And you've heard a lot about the value of groups. Well, I want to encourage you to consider getting in a Finding Traction group. It's 52 video lessons, each of them about 15, 20 minutes long. And then we get together each week. We talk about how it applies to our lives. We connect on WhatsApp throughout the week and encourage each other, maybe when things are going good or we're struggling. And it really provides a first year to help you change what may have been patterns from the time you were 10, 11, or 12. And so I want to encourage you to do that. I want to encourage everybody also to check on the show notes, and you will see a sign up for our Circle app. It's a free sign up, and on there's a whole bunch of free resources that you can tap into. You can learn more about the Finding Traction course. There's the first 2 videos are for free on there. There's downloadable worksheets. So check it out. And in all of that, if you want to connect with me more, reach out to me at bandofbrothers.care @gmail.com. Well, let's get back to this idea of there being areas in our life that feel out of control. Areas where maybe procrastination has set in and we feel like we're now paying the cost. Procrastination. Why do today what I can put off to tomorrow? I think everybody, every one of us would say there's areas where we're probably procrastinating, things that we should get to but aren't getting to. Let me give you a couple examples where I've noticed my procrastination recently. First of all, I took this deck that I have and I covered it in. I work with a carpenter. We put a whole bunch of patio doors in, and this extra room, I have heating and air conditioning out here as well. And this extra room is where I hang out. It's where I do all of my coaching. It's where I watch football. It's where I eat my junk food and pay my bills and do my finances. And probably for some of those reasons, this room over time became more and more disheveled. I just, would leave dishes out. Every time I got mail, I would throw it in this big box. And, every time I'm reading a book, I left it out. So over time, there was just stuff everywhere. And I kept saying to myself, I've really got to clean this up. I really don't like how this room makes me feel. And I'm not even obsessive compulsive. It was a complete mess. And I almost got to the point where I hated coming out here because every time I looked around, I just hated that feeling of what was going on. Well, then what happened is opening a football season, we had like 14 people over to watch my football game out here. And, I had to clean it up. I couldn't invite people and we couldn't get 14 chairs out here just with the state of the room, among other things. And so I ended up over a whole morning cleaning this room completely. I took stuff out that made it cluttered. I ended up going through, I took all of this huge basket of bills and papers and notes, and I threw it out on the desk. And literally I went through every piece of paper and I collected it. I filed it. I sorted it, and then I put it in my filing cabinet. And the room was finally clean. And so we had a football party, and I did the initial cleanup after that. And then I'm going, you know what? I would love to keep the room this clean. And so what I ended up doing is I said, you know what? Going forward, every time I have one thing out, every time I have a single piece of paper, every time I have a dish, every time I have a book, I am going to put it away immediately. I am not going to let my room get to where it was. And for 2.5 weeks, this room has been as clean as it was just before the football party. And it's felt great, and it really hasn't taken a whole lot of time. I get some mail, I open it up, I throw the envelopes away, and I file the pieces of paper. Anything that's out goes away immediately. My woodworking shop, again, you might say, this guy sounds like he's OCD, but I'm really not. My woodworking shop was the same way. It had got so messy, I stopped going into it. I hated how it made me feel. And one day I recognized that and go, you know what? I don't want to go out into my woodworking shop simply because of the state of it. So what I did is, it was too much to do in one day. It was a mess. I simply set a timer, a 15-minute timer, and I went out there and for 15 minutes started putting things away that I had left out, started putting tools away. And then when I'd done that, I started cleaning up. And in about 3 days of doing that, all of a sudden, I wanted to go back in my shop again. It was clean. My mind was clean. And I'm going, you know what? This feels good. Now, trust me, that doesn't make me a stoic. It doesn't make me a saint. It's just something that I've noticed makes a difference in how I feel about my life. You may say, well, what does this have to do with recovery? What does procrastination or some of these areas feeling out of control, what does this have to do with walking or journeying away from porn behaviors? Well, it has a lot to do with it. In fact, many therapists who work with addictions, in particular sex addictions, they know, and one of the tools they use is to start helping their clients gain control in one area of their life. Say, making their bed, Jordan Peterson notwithstanding. And what they're feeling is, what they're learning is, when you feel out of control with a whole bunch of areas in your life, it leads to stress. It leads to feeling overwhelmed. And when you feel stressed and overwhelmed with all of these little details in your life, that leads you to want to medicate. That leads you to want to escape. So it may seem, I don't know, counterintuitive or even, misdirected, but they'll simply say, let's deal with one specific external thing this week that you can gain mastery over. Let's say keeping a clean counter or showering every day or something that will give you a small sense of mastery. And then as we master that, let's use that confidence to build and work towards a bigger challenge. And as you begin to feel better about your life, what will happen is that's something that will be a huge benefit as you work towards what is really an outgrowth of that, which is your addictive behaviors. So the idea is feeling out of control, procrastinating, putting things off, lead to this whole pile of things that you go, I really got to get to. That leads you to feeling overwhelmed and stressed. And we all know how to deal with that, right? So, it could be something like, I don't know, something daily. It could be something bigger, like putting off doing your income tax, or I don't know, getting your oil changed. It's twice as long as it should have been, or whatever that is. And here's the point. When you put something off that you know you need to do, how many times does your mind go to that? It goes to that again and again and again. And every time it goes to that, it gives you that little thought of, you are a loser. You can't even do that. What is wrong with you? And you feel like you're behind. You're going to be in trouble, and it just leaves you in that state of feeling oppressed and depressed and all of that. And again, all of that fits with that addictive lifestyle. So what can we do about it? What can we do with that sense of craziness? How can we combat that, ability we've all learned to procrastinate? Well, let's go back to, this daily practice, using the idea of the room out here or my workshop. I want to give you a daily practice of something to consider, which I think will go a long way towards making you the master of your domain. So here's what I'm going to encourage you to do. And I think this is just a life skill that you can do and you can develop that will make a huge difference. Each day, I want you to ask yourself this question. What is one thing at the top of my list I don't want to do, but I need to do? That thing I'm going to think about over and over and over. And I really got to do. I have to get to this. Oh my goodness, if I don't do this, am I going to, what's going to be the result? What is that one thing that's causing you stress at the top of your list? Now, here's the rule. I want you today to do that first, or do that the very first opportunity you get. Only one thing, but that one thing I want you to do today. And say it's a longer project that you can't do in one day. I want you to set a timer like 15 minutes or 20 minutes, and I want you to do that one thing. And when you do that one thing, whether you got a good start on it or you're able to complete it, that is going to lead to good feelings for the rest of the day. So whenever your mind goes back to it, you're going to go, but I've done that. And now you can get to, because you've done your have tos, you can now do your get tos. But you're doing your have tos, you're doing your one have to before you do your get tos. And when you do that, it will build your sense of mastery. It will build your sense of confidence, and then you can take that momentum and apply it to the next thing that you naturally want to procrastinate. Sounds simple, right? Well, I think like any habit, it can become instinctive. And you don't even need to stand up straight like a lobster. See you next time.